Alright, hello everyone, welcome to my basics tutorial on just the UI and how Battletech functions. And I'm playing one of my episodes right now, episode 1 of my current playthrough. And it's a standard battle mission. So our objective here is we're going to destroy enemy units. So it's just a standard battle mission. So through this tutorial, we're just going to go through just like the basic level of the initiative bar that's going to be up top here. And also, we're going to talk through some of these, you know, uh, metrics down here as well, looking at our units, what this means, what that means, that sort of thing. Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. It's going to be a lot of fun, and thank you for the user who suggested to do one of these. And you know, I never really thought about it, but it kind of makes sense that there might be some new people coming into the BattleTech universe, and they don't know uh, how this game works in particular. And yeah, thank you for the suggestion. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, let's get on through. So we have a standard battle mission here. We have our enemy force here. Not it doesn't display this all the time where they're exactly going to be, but during this mission, it is going to tell me. Now there is a chance that there could be reinforcements, and I'll kind of talk through that as well. So we have a set of pilots here. So we have like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then there's this little bar here that goes into our, uh, either a second or third group of pilots. Uh, we also have a UI bar here that shows you different abilities and skills that each pilot can perform. So we have a general attack right here. We have a general move button, um, and we'll talk why that's important and why we should use the move button every now and again. And we have the sprint, we have the jump jet button. So this is where we use our jump jets. If your mech is capable of jump jetting, to click that button, and we can jump jet all throughout uh, the terrain. Also, we have a skill or an ability. This ability here, multi-target. We can select multiple enemies, and we can select for which which weapon goes to what enemy on the side over here. So, for an example, we could list, let's say, enemy A. We're going to put the AC5, the medium X Pulse 2, and then all the other weapons will go to B, for an example. So that's one of the abilities here. We also have the 7 ability. So this gives you more options. This is kind of a modded part. This will not be in the vanilla game. In this ability here, if we clicked on it, we'll have careful maneuvers, erratic maneuvers, and even more of our other abilities that we can obtain through experience. This here is precise shot. This will be available when your resolve bar, which is right here, is full or at the recommended level or at the right level, which is like 50. So once this reaches 50, we can use the precise strike, which enhances our accuracy. Your pilots can also obtain the ability of selective like shot, which is you can precise shot a location. So like if we wanted to go for a headshot, we could go for a headshot. But that is a player ability, and you can also get that from equipment as well. This is vigilance. Vigilance can help with initiative. So this is another resolve skill. So when we clicked on this button here, we can, for the next turn, we can, so there's a stability bar, which I'll show you right here. So once this bar gets past this threshold here, So if we're taking a lot of fire, so like a lot of like missile fire, ballistic fire, anything that causes like instability damage, um, this bar will go up. Once it starts getting past this mark here and into this, like say this third threshold here, we will lose all of our evasion. Um, so a good way to get rid of that is through vigilance. If our resolve is high enough to use it, we can vigilance for the next turn. It will remove all of our instability and also give us +1 initiative. So it will put us in an earlier phase in the next round. And this is brace. Brace will, so if you just brace, it will remove all instability, but you will not move. You will not have any evasion. It will also increase the amount of defense you have. So you can see right here in the bar here, this gives you the amount of damage resistance you have. So currently my Shadowhawk has 32% damage resistance and 8 evasion. So he has a very high evasion because it's the earlier part of the game. And then this is where your initiative phase will be for your pilots. And they'll also be in the bar here. So let's go ahead and play this a little bit further. And we'll kind of go through some other things. So right now we're pretty much at the bottom of the map. And we need to decide where we want to go. Right now I'm kind of talking through what mechs I have. So I have a mixed bag of lights and mediums currently. And the light bracket goes from 20 to 35 tons. And the medium bracket goes from 40 tons to 55 tons. And the heavy bracket goes from 60 tons to 75 tons, and 80 tons to 100 tons is the assault bracket, the assault mech bracket. So it applies also to vehicles as well. So we're just going to go through this really quickly. As you can see, like these little dots here represents how far this pilot here can move. It's a light mech, so a light mech can move a little bit further. And yeah, so we know the enemy's up here, so we can, generally move this far. We might be in sensor range, so we can start to detect the enemy that's in front of us. So that might be an idea. And as you can tell, I went as far as I could. I'm using the sprint ability. So in the vanilla game, if you use the sprint ability, you cannot shoot. You can only move. But in the modded version, the Battletech Advanced 3062 version, you can move and shoot. So that's why evasion is so important here. So we can evade incoming enemy fire. So we want to make sure our evasion is as high as possible if we can manage it. Now we also see a green mark here. This represents forest. There's a forest tile. So a forest tile reduces movement and spotting distance, but it provides a 10% reduction against range attacks to the front and to the side, and +2 difficulty to hit units within forest, and +1 difficulty for attacks made by unit within the forest. So all these tile sets have unique abilities that you want to keep in mind. And right now I'm just setting up my units for the turn. So right there you saw that the round had ended and that there was an enemy turn. Now I'm gonna back it up just a little bit and show you what I mean by how I can tell that there's no enemy reinforcements coming. So this is my last unit that I have to move here, and you'll see enemy turn. It just cycles really quickly. If there was reinforcements on the field, this would go on a lot longer. That way I can kind of indicate, okay, there may be enemy forces nearby. Now it's not always the case, but majority of the times that holds true. So let's continue on. I'm going to continue to move forward with my units, staying cover. Now I have enemy contact. Now we can still move before the battle phase begins. So we have the initiative of moving. So we're going to move all of our guys first before the battle phase begins. So I have a couple of unknown mechs over here. And their evasion is going to be 8 because this is how the mod works. You know, the player would have an advantage on the enemy if it was just 0 evasion because they're just sitting still. So they're gonna be quote unquote spawn protected. Now that's me using my jump ability, and there's a reason why I am doing this. One, when the early game, your pilots aren't that good, so their gunnery skills are very, very low. Sometimes as low as 1. So height advantage is very, very important. The higher you are versus your opponent, the more accuracy you're going to have. So I'm going to continue to move on here. And I'm showing you, just briefly there on the bottom, armor values to each side there for each unit. So each one of these represents an armor value. So like usually the front of a tank is usually the most armored, right? And the turret as well. And then the sides, the flanks of your vehicle are generally pretty strong. And the rear of your vehicle is probably the weakest point. So this is your armor value right here. This is your total armor value this unit has. Okay, this is your total structure value. When you start going into structure, this value will start to will turn orange. So this white will slowly turn gray to dark gray, and then eventually to orange once all the armor has been removed. So continue on here. All right, so the battle phase, so the entering combat phase has begun, and now we have initiative phases. So the higher the phase, the earlier you go. So this mech here is in the 9th phase. So once I go to it here, it's going to be a light mech. Usually lighter mechs are within these phases. Between 9 and phase 7 are usually light mechs. Between, I would say, 7 and 6 is usually mediums, and then 6 to 4 probably heavies, and then 4 and below are probably going to be assaults and or heavy tanks. So this Jenner here is moving across this this rubble here. We call this rough terrain. And that rough terrain will increase the amount of instability damage that mech will take. So we have to keep that in mind as a player and what our opponents are doing. So eventually here, I will probably show that. So right now I'm trying to decide where I want to put my galleon. Now tanks are usually more disposable than mechs are. Mechs are harder to replace, they're more expensive. They, you know, are hard to replace, and you know the repair costs can be really high, and this is more value than a tank would. So what I'm thinking about here is just gaining sight here on my enemy. And as you can tell, both of my enemies have went. So we're going to back it up here again, so that way I can show you what I ended up doing. So I end up reserving. So this light mech, I end up reserving down into this turn. And then I reserve down again these 2 units to the next phase. I believe that's how that goes here. So I reserve down and the enemy reserves. The enemy can reserve all the way down to 1 until you make a move. Sometimes that does happen. Um, or you can move and then they have to move. You can manipulate the system into your favor. And so can the enemy. The enemy can manipulate you into their favor. So right now, the enemy has decided, I'm going to go on this phase for whatever reason. So he's going over the rough terrain. It's a Jenner. It's a light mech. So now I'm going to move my... So I reserve down again. So he moves. And those vehicles, those mechs have moved completely since they're all grayed out here. So it's not like a bright red. It's kind of like a darkish red. So we know that they have moved for this round. So I am safe to maneuver how I wish for this time. So this enemy mech has 3 evasion and 22% damage resistance. So he's kind of in slight cover, but not really. And now I only have 10% damage reduction and 6 evasion. So I have a higher chance of evading incoming enemy attacks. But if I do get hit, I probably would get hit pretty hard because I only have 10% damage resistance. All right, so we have status effects on our enemy here. Now, I'm trying to remember all of them off the top of my head, but I'll just talk about the important ones here. So this here means the enemy had braced. The enemy did not move. They are retaining some of their protection. So like I talked about earlier, he just braced because he didn't shoot his weapons. So he just kind of stood still for the most part. So if he just stood back there and braced completely, he would have more damage resistance. But because he moved and braced, he has a little bit less. So let's talk about these orange effects. So these effects really do matter. So this is the rough terrain effect here. So we want to keep this in mind that if we have any instability weapons, we should, because look at his pilot skills are pretty bad, or his gut skills could be pretty bad that affect this bar here. They're pretty low. So we can destabilize this guy pretty quickly and remove this evasion. So that's kind of how I'm thinking as I'm going through and playing. This is a crippling, I believe, status effect. So he may have some crippled component in his mech. And I'm not quite sure what this is off the top of my head. But these are actuators, crits. So this could affect his aiming and or piloting. Now I'll probably go through this potentially here. So I decided to shoot at him, and as you can see, the more damage an enemy will take, there will be a damage effect shown on the UI here. So he is taking some damage to his left torso, and his armor values have gone on a little bit. And to his center torso there as well. So right now I'm trying to jump into range so I can start attacking the enemy from above. Unfortunately, I do not have the ability to see them quite yet, so we're just getting into position here. But I want to show you something else that happens beforehand. I kind of go a little fast here, so I need to be quick. So right here, we have this gray box. This kind of shows you sight range and weapon range. So right here is probably my most effective weapon range. And then you can get multiple weapon ranges as well. So just for your information there. The further you go out beyond that effective weapon range, the less damage you do. Should have been more clear on that. All right, so now I have some medium X here, and I'm deciding to move. I'm trying to make a decision here where I want to go. I'm going to go out of cover here. So I'm also doing risk management as well. These mechs aren't that strong. I'm not too concerned if I take a little bit of damage here, so I don't mind a little bit less evasion for more accuracy. So I think I took a general move here. It might be a general move. Nope, it looks like a sprint. Okay, so I took a sprint here. But I took less evasion to get a shot on this guy here. So we also have another mech here. It's a pretty decent mech. Still a light mech, but it has decent weapons on it. So I'm just pointing that out. You can also see that this mech has jump jets. So I have to bear in mind the AI could potentially use the jump jets to DFA, death from above. So they'll use the jumping ability to jump on top of your own units, and that will affect stability and all of that. And can potentially hit you in the head with a DFA as well. So they can do a lot of damage to you when landing on top of you. So you have to keep in mind about ranges and how many jump jets. So this guy has a lot of jump jets. So I don't want to get too close to him because the AI tends to get a little desperate at times. So I want to keep myself at distance. So now I'm kind of talking about some of the skills and abilities here, the status effects that are on the mech here. And I'm also bringing up the light tag. So the tag is a good weapon. It's not like necessarily a weapon, but it is classified as one. But it will tag the enemy, making it a +1 to hit. So your accuracies for your other weapons will increase for you and your lance mates. So let's see if we land the tag here or not. Yep, so we'll see right here that we landed the tag. We also see like a little beacon effect on the enemy. And then our stats have increased as we land the light tag first. So our accuracies have increased. Now our missiles have a higher chance of hitting. And you can see the more damage the enemy has taken, the more gray appears. So, I'm a little fast here. But you can see this target was tagged. It is a +1 to hit. And you can get, there's other types of weapons that can do this as well. So now I'm going to move my other lighter medium mech into a position. I'm deciding, where I want to go. If I was in control, I would probably show you like different elevations. This might be a higher elevation to the enemy, maybe slightly, but not much. It's not a lot of evasion here. So I'm using my jump ability. So I'm going to get up a little bit higher, and my accuracies will increase. I also have an ability here, and this ability down here is sensor lock. Now, sensor lock can reduce the enemy's evasion, but once you use the sensor lock ability, your unit's turn is done. So we want to move first, then use the sensor lock ability. We want to make sure that we're in sensor range. There'll be like a light blue line that pops up here, and that will help with accuracy as well. So we're going to get up here, and now our accuracy is a little bit better. Now remember, this is the early game. Our pilots aren't that strong, and I don't use a lot of these pilots later on. I think I get rid of these pilots like soon after this episode because I wanted to rename my pilots for you guys if you wanted to use be a pilot in the series. So right now I'm kind of going over some of the armor values of the Jenner that's in front of us. That's the enemy. So as we can see here, he has 1 armor value left and 40 structure left. Once the armor value is gone, we can start getting into criticals. So we can start critting out ammo or anything that could be in that side torso. So, I just briefly saw it there. So in this enemy's left torso, there's jump jets and the heatsink. Once we open this up, we can start critting out those equipment, and if we do blow this up, we can blow off this arm as well. So this is all connected here. So by blowing this up, we can blow off the arm here. And also by blowing up a side torso, the pilot has a chance of taking an injury. So right now we have this blue line. This blue line represents a flanking attack. So I am attacking the enemy to its side. You can also see that represented by the red outline here on the left side of this mech. So I am facing this. If you see a red line, that means that I am front facing. I am aiming at everything here. And if it's a green line, I have a rear attack. So I'm attacking from behind. And this is the rear part of the mech. Usually it's the weakest part of a mech. Now, a side shot helps with limiting the amount of possibilities of which your shot will land. So there's only a few possibilities. I think it's just the head, the shoulder, the arm, and the leg. There may be center torso as well. I don't remember 100% off the top of my head. But yeah, so it limits the amount of what gets shot. So you can kind of focus in on the one side. And that's what I'm doing right here. I'm going to focus in on the one side of the mech. So right now, I'm looking at the penalties, the effects that are on the mech itself. So the hip has been destroyed, making piloting checks harder to pass. So let's say if he sprinted or he used his jump jets, there's a piloting check that he has to pass. And if he doesn't pass it, his mech will fall down. He'll fall over and be knocked down. And he'll have more instability issues. As you can see, there's a little yellow line here developing. So his instability is starting to grow. So we're going to decide to sensor lock and remove some of that evasion. We're going to bring up our Griffin, who has LRMs, so long-range missiles. And we're going to either move and shoot or stand and shoot here. I don't remember which. So I saw the accuracy below. It's about 44%. So we're slated to hit only about 44% of our LRMs here. So 40% of the 20 rockets that we're about to fire at him will probably land. You might be able to hit more. It's just luck and chance. Obviously, the higher the accuracy, the more damage you'll do, the more instability you'll do. And now structure is exposed. This is a to the mod itself. So there's like a piloting check for they feel unsettled or they feel uneasy, and the higher this goes, the higher that I don't know how to say this, but the more they feel at threat, the potential to eject will get higher, which is another way to salvage mechs too. So we can either crit out the mech, or we can scare them out of the mech, essentially. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, is to frighten them out of the mech. So you can see the blue lines, we're getting all kinds of angles. So that's the other part I wanted to show. Is there's a kind of a broken shot. Right there. Let's see if we can get it really quick. All right. Well, maybe you saw it there. I'll try to get it again. All right. Let me see if I can. There we go. Perfect. So this is a broken shot. So anytime you see like this little eye indicator and there's a difference in color, so the normal color would be red, but there's a broken color here. So this indicates a broken shot, which means I believe it's a little bit of it's an accuracy and also damage reduction if we were to take this shot here. So we're going to try to not to take broken shots as much as possible. Sometimes you don't have a real choice. And as you can see, we're starting a new round. So this mech, this very light mech, this is a 20-ton mech, is in this phase here. Now, it's not always indicative of the mech's weight class where your pilot's going to end up in here, but usually on in the early game it does matter more or less. When you get to the later game or like mid-late game, you may see assault mechs in like a 6 phase, you know, a higher phase because of that pilot skill. So because they have like a master tactician skill, their initiative is a little bit higher. But earlier on, it's kind of easy to tell, okay, am I fighting light mechs? Am I fighting medium mechs? And it can still apply to later on, but you don't want to rely on it too much. So we're going to use our jump jets here. We're going to attack this Falcon from the side. We only land 1 hit there. That's okay. Again, this is early game. Most of our pilots are they're not that skilled, right? Also, if this mech were to shoot at me, because I'm at a higher elevation, he has less accuracy to hit me from up here than I do to hit him down there. So also something to keep in mind to your position is if you're down here, let's say we swapped our positions and he's up here, this guy would be more of a concern to me than these guys here, because this guy is threatening me more because I can't hit him, and he'll hit me more. So just bear that in mind. All right, the Jenner shoots at me. He misses all of his shots. And again, it's early game. Enemy pilots aren't that great. So we have a galleon here. I tend to use galleons, vehicles, or just generally vehicles as flanking and rear shot units. So I kind of try to distract the enemy also with them. So I'll probably move behind him. As you can see, we have a green line here. That means we have a rear shot. And looking at the armor values behind the enemy here. Now this is a risky move because mechs can melee your vehicles. Now you can see down here there's a weapon attack, a punch attack, and a kick. And there's also a charge as well that you can do in melee. Mechs have a higher damage. They have a damage bonus to meleeing vehicles. So just be aware of that. This is a little bit of a risk, but it's a calculated risk to output more damage here. So he's hurting in the back there. So he'll go. He will shoot. He will miss. And you can see that this little grayed out part right here that shows that he's unsettled. And the next phase is like yellow. And then beyond that, it's red. Like they'll get panic. Sorry, it's their panic index. So his panic index is low. So we just blew off his entire side here. His entire left torso has been blown off. So we've destroyed his actuators, his jump jets, his arm, in addition to that. All of his lasers are destroyed. He has a current conscious level, so that's affecting him and his abilities to shoot. He also took severe burns, which affects his ability to either move or shoot, his accuracies. He also took a pilot injury, so that's what that was. So his health level's at 2 out of 3. If that goes to 0, the pilot will incapacitate and the mech will be essentially destroyed. Well, not destroyed, but it will be ineffective and the mech will black out and fall over. So you can see I'm at pretty good height advantage. I'm in a pretty good position here. I have my light mechs flanking. I have my vehicle flanking as well. And you can see that little yellow square box that just popped up there that indicates a melee. So this means I'm in melee range if I wanted to melee this mech. So we're going to go over here. We're going to go in the flanking shot because, hey, that's his weak side now. He doesn't have a torso or an arm. So these parts are still represented on the table, but anything that goes to the left arm or left torso will essentially go straight to the center torso. So all that other damage will go straight to the center torso. Same thing with the leg. If I were to blow off the leg and we still had a left torso, all the damage that would have gone to the left leg will now go to the left torso. I hope that makes sense. We also have down here our pilot's healths. So we have on our main pilot here, we have 5 health bars and 1 injury resist bar here. So that's in green. That means if I were to take a hit, I have 1 free save of injury right there. And also it will show you which phase your pilots are on here as well. So we're going to take a side shot here. It's pretty damaging. So we see some bleeding happening here. So if we didn't kill him, he would have 1 activation remaining. So he would have 1 more round, so probably next round. And then he will fall over the following round. And you can see all kinds of things happening. The engine gets destroyed here. Pilot is bleeding. Pilot is incapacitated. And then it will show how many parts of that mech that we salvaged. So we kind of blew it up completely. We cored it out completely. So we're only going to salvage 1 piece of this Jenner in our loot table. And also, it has updated our task list here. So we have 50% of the enemies destroyed. So we know that there's only 1 enemy left, and that's this other guy. So it can help you predict if there's any more enemies out there to destroy. So we're looking at more of the engine. So this mech here has an engine on its side. So this has an XL engine. So if we blow up its side, this mech will no longer be. Now there's like clan XLs and there's like light engines that if you blow up the sides it won't do that, but if you blow up both torsos it will destroy the engine. But with a standard XL engine, if you blow off the side of it, that will be the end of that mech. So that's what I'm looking at right here. You can see it, this mech also has all kinds of different weapons and stuff on it, so it's a pretty decent mech to see early on, and you know I'm hoping to salvage it if I can. But my odds are my pilots aren't going to be that delicate. I can't expect much here. All right, so we just ended that round. We're in the 5th round now. So everyone starts back to their phases again, unless, you know, there are some like effects that we can put on the enemy. If we have precise strike, we can move the enemy down a phase prior to the next round if we used it after it had moved, if that makes sense. So right now I'm looking to get a rear shot because his rear is open and he has his engine in one of his his torsos, right? So if I blow that up, that's it. So we're gonna let him move. I feel pretty safe. He hits me with 1 medium laser. It's not that big of a deal. All right, so that's the DFA option that just popped up there. Let me see if I can slow that down a little bit. All right, so death from above tells you how much damage you're going to do and how much stability damage you're going to do and how much damage you're going to take. So remember, it's kind of like a suicide mission when you do these types of things. And you can make builds to survive or tolerate more DFAs. So you can do that, but you can also see the DFA effect down here or any melee's effect down here. So we have a 99% chance of, if we were to do a DFA, to hit him. So we have a really good high chance of hitting him, but we're not going to do that. We have a very, very light mech, and if we were to DFA him, we would take a lot of instability. It would be very bad. So we're not doing that. You'll see this white line here. It's very faint, but this gray line here shows sight. So we could still see that enemy, but we can't shoot at him. So right now I'm trying to decide what I want to do. All right, we're going to make that move. Use our flanker to attack. We miss pretty much almost everything there. We hit with one small laser. Again, this is early game. So you saw that there was a purple this right here. This is also a broken shot, but I believe it's a broken shot on, I think it's on you. I'm not 100% sure what the purple one is, but it still does normal damage. But I think there's something to it. I don't remember exactly what it is. But I would consider it a broken shot. I wouldn't take those unless you absolutely had to. So I'm going to get into the rear of this guy. Again, I'm in melee range of this guy just in case he gets desperate. So now he's stressed. So this is the piloting check, right, to ejection. So now he's stressed now. His panic index has rose. Again, panic index is basically indicative of how many enemy units to your units that are available, right? So we have our whole squad here versus him. So it's like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1, 5 to 1. That does affect his ability, his risk level to go up in his panic index. And also if he has less weapons, if his mech is damaged, if he's injured, the pilot's injured, all that stuff matters to get the pilot to eject from its mech. Speaking of ejection, if you need to eject from your mech, you can hit this button here. And don't be afraid to do this if your mech is in really bad shape. If you think that your mech is going to be destroyed, don't be afraid to eject your pilot. It's better to save the mech and save the pilot versus losing a pilot and losing a mech completely. Absolutely. And we'll talk about this withdraw button here too. Once this is kind of set in stone here. This is pretty much over. I have pretty much, I have a broken shot here. I'm trying to see if I can get a clean shot. I don't have a clean shot, so I'm going to reserve down and use one of my other pilots here. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I know I'm not the best at explaining things, but hopefully I did. And throughout the playthrough, I actually do explain a little bit more as I go along, my decisions, why I do what I do. And the abilities I'll also explain throughout the playthrough as well, because there's so many different abilities. So right there, I'm not moving very far. So the further you move, the less accuracy you're going to have on your pilot. So I decided to take a risk Again, risk versus reward. So my accuracy is going to be a little bit higher here, even though it's a broken shot. My accuracy went up. I only hit him with one of them, but it is what it is. It's early game. And again, we're back to the same reserve status. So our wasp is in the first part of the turn because it's a light mech, and we have Phantom here. This is a pilot ability. Phantom will give you extra evasion for 2 turns. So the first turn you use it. So if I use it here, I would gain like an extra like 2 or 3 evasion, I believe it is, and then that status effect will last through to the next turn as well. I can still use that ability in a sense for the next turn, and then there will be a cooldown on that. I probably won't use it this turn because I don't need to. I think I go over here. Yeah, I'm gonna go over here. So I'm gonna get some evasion here. We miss everything again, early game. And as you can tell there, the pilot is stressed. So this will turn red. Once this turns red, there's a good chance that the pilot will eject. And this can also improve later on too. If they're not being shot at, or things are improving on the battlefield for the enemy, that status effect will improve for them. And also, because he's panicked, he will miss more as well. So his accuracies will take a dive as well. So here I'm going to melee. So this will give you a good example. I think I'm going to melee here. I should melee here. It makes sense to me that I should melee here. So I can choose which side of the mech I can melee on, if possible. I think I'm going to go with a kick here. So a kick here will allow me to use some of my weapons. I have a 99.1% chance of hitting him, so I'm going to take that, and it also gives stability damage as well. So in case, and it will remove evasion because he'll become destabilized. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now my weapons are active. So there we go. And because he panicked, the pilot ejects and thus wins us the battle. My rest of the weapons will still fire, so I will still be inputting damage to the mech. Okay, so, and then by blowing things up and destroying the enemy, we can also become inspired, which will increase our resolve gain as well. All right, so before we go on and end this, I want to talk about a few more things. Again, this is really, really basic stuff. So I'm not going to go in too much in more depth than I have to here, because I want to keep this video short. All right. Let's see here. Let's talk about a couple more things. There's also a heat bar here. This heat bar, if you go over this heat bar, a lot of bad things can happen. So you want to stay under this threshold as much as possible, but there's sometimes you have no choice. You should go over this threshold, but use it very, very rarely. Because once you start going over this threshold, the higher you go, the chances of ammo explosion increases. So if you have ammo on your mech anywhere, the heat will cook it off and explode your mech and blow off that component. Like, so let's say if there was a piece of ammo in your legs and you overheated, your mech will explode. That part of the mech will explode off. So you blow off your leg because of that. So be aware. And also there's a chance of your mech shutting down because of overheating. So if your mech shuts down, you lose all evasion, and basically the enemy will have called shots on you. So called shot is basically, like I told you before, it's the precision shot here, but it's a skill, and then you can select where you can shoot your enemy. So you can shoot your enemy in the head if you wanted to. There would be a certain percentage, and how like the chances of you hitting the head will be like probably pretty low in the early game, probably be like 4 or 5%. So there's a chance to hit him in the head as well. So yeah, don't go over this threshold. I don't recommend doing it at all unless you're very experienced and you know what you're doing. Don't do it. All right, a few more things I want to talk through, and that's this withdraw button here. This withdraw button here, if you need to use it, if you're in a really bad way, don't hesitate to use it. I'll talk about the negative effects of using it, but if you're going to lose mechs and pilots, you can't easily replace those pilots and mechs. If you can't readily replace them, you should withdraw from the battlefield. The negative effect of withdrawing from the battlefield, you lose out on your payout and salvage rights. You might get some payout if you complete some objectives during the mission, but you won't get salvage rights or much at all. And your MRB rating, your Mercenary Review Board rating, will go down. And your faction reputation that you took the mission for will go down. So let's say, I took a mission for, let's say, the Davians here, and I know I'm not going to be able to complete that mission, so I hit the withdraw button, and I withdraw my forces. And what that ends up doing is that will hurt my reputation with that faction. So it'd be much harder to get better missions, much harder to ally with that faction. So, but it's a small penalty, it's a small price to pay versus losing a mech, because that's your lifeline. You have to be able to field something to win battles. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck. So, like in the early game, it's not going to be fun at all. So, that's my recommendation there. Let me just see if there's anything else that I need to cover. I think I covered most of everything. And if there's something that you have a question on, just feel free to comment below. I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. I have over 1,200 hours on this game, and probably about 400 hours on the BTA mod. So I feel pretty good overall. And I highly recommend this be your first mod. It's really fun. But I do also recommend you play through the vanilla campaign first before doing any modded playthrough. You kind of get a better idea. It's a lot different, I will say that. But if you'd rather play it like this, BTA is pretty easy to get into. Yeah, I think that might be all that I can talk about. We can talk about weapon groups over here. So I moved my light tag up here, so my light tag will shoot first, and then my other accuracies for my weapons will go up. I also put my heavy punching weapons also on the top, so the first listed weapon will fire first, second, third, fourth, all the way down, etc. So what I'm thinking of here is like my AC5 is my heavy hitting weapon. It'll punch a hole in the mech potentially and open up to the structure here. And my other weapons, like my lasers and my missiles, will start to crit out the enemy. So that's the other thing that I'm thinking of as I'm playing through, which weapons go first, and also like autocannon weapons, they have a recoil as well. So I probably fired this before, and that's why my accuracy is a little bit low, and that's why I missed. So you might have to give your weapon a cooldown turn, and let it cool down for a turn, and then use it again. And that way its accuracy is always functioning at its best ability. Or you can take the chance, like I did here, and potentially hitting 17%. And again, if you're not shooting, this is a great tip. If you're not shooting your weapons, even if it's a small chance, you're missing out on the chance to actually hit. So my recommendation is always alpha strike if you can, and keeping your heat low. My heat's very low on this mech, so I don't mind shooting everything here. And I didn't gain any heat at all. So yeah, I lose some ammo, but there was that chance of me hitting him. Same thing here. So I have 20 missiles. It's going to fire 20 missiles. And it shows you the damage of each missile is going to do to the enemy. So it should be all three. Yep, it's 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Very, very nice. Yep. So yeah, I hope that kind of covers some of the basics here during the battles. I do go over in more detail as I go through the playthrough. There will be certain situations. Every battle is unique in a sense. And there's like almost limitless things that you can do in the game to play to your play style and what you like to do. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I'll leave a link to the playlist below if you haven't, if you want to check that out. And yeah, thank you for stopping by and take care.